Purple rain, purple rain, ooh, purple rain. Hello, and welcome to the next exciting episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, Quarantine Edition. The podcast where Matt and Todd watch a movie on this random top 100 Netflix countdown that we found, and then we watch the movie, and then we talk about it, and then we share it with you, the masses, to bring happiness and sunshine into your life. I am Todd Domer.
Yes, happiness and sunshine. I am Matt Malloy, and welcome to this episode. Todd had a tie-in this week. He did something by the artist formerly known as Prince, and this episode we're going to be reviewing a movie called The Artist.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, a word from our sponsor. Our sponsor is the Santa Fe Writers Project, or SFWP for short. SFWP is an independent publishing house that has been helping authors and books connect with the world for 22 years with a wide range of fiction and creative nonfiction. The founder, director, and friend to the podcast, Andrew Gifford, has offered 25% off to all of our listeners when you order direct through his website, sfwp.com. Just use the coupon code MOVIES when you check out. That's MOVIES as a coupon code for 25%. Thank you, Santa Fe Writers Project, for helping make the magic happen here at Matt and Todd Go to the Movies. Everyone go and support a small business. Buy some books.
Buy some books.
Yes. So, as I mentioned, we are today giving our thoughts and feelings about the 2011 Grammy Best Picture winner, The Artist. So, what is this movie about? Well, it's about a silent film star in the era where silent films were going away for a new kind of film called a talkie, which just means it had sound. Um, and so it kind of follows the the story follows the main character here as he's coming to grips with this change in his industry, and how's he going to survive? What's he going to do? Is he going to do silent films forever? All those things. And for for the most part, this movie is a silent film in the way that you would think of it, with like cards with the actors are saying. So it's a silent film about the era of silent film. So there's a lot of meta going on. So it's also in black and white. Now, it was not 3 hours long, which is uh, uh, something that's different from the last few movies that we've ever reviewed. It's only an hour and a half.
Yes.
So, Todd, what did you think of this film, The Artist?
Well, there are things that people can absolutely love about this movie. I really did not like it. I don't know if I'm just. I don't know if it's because I was not born in the era of silent movies, but
Few people were born in that era who are alive today.
yeah, I'm actually trying to look up right now what this movie beat for its award. You said it won Best Picture, right?
It won Best Picture, yeah.
All right. Um, let me see here. Okay, so well, it's not really giving me a list. Are we sure it was 2011?
Pretty sure about
All
that,
right.
yeah.
Well, I can't find it, but I just was curious what this film beat. Okay, so I think what it goes for and what it does, it did extremely well. It was gonna show this kind of um, the way movies were, uh, kind of this transition between, like you were saying in your synopsis, the silent films when the first recorders were kind of first being brought into movies and they were actually recording voices. That kind of switch over. How does I guess the dying breed of silent film star handle that? And as you see in the movie, he doesn't really handle it very well. Um, and the new era of these talkies. What is it called? What are they called? Talkies?
Yes, talkies.
So, I guess on an acting level and all that kind of stuff, this is all done really well. Like, I don't think you can really take much away from this movie in that era, but in that area. But I just really could not get into this movie. Like, it's just not for me. It's really not for me. There's plenty of people who, I don't know, could, I guess, dissect these performances and really, really get into them and say how brilliant they were and how brilliant this movie is and the cinematography and all this kind of stuff. And I think when you go that route, it's just going over my head. Like, that kind of stuff is useless in a conversation with me because I just craved for someone to talk in this movie through most of the film. I mean, 20 minutes into the movie, I was pretty done. Like, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to survive an hour and 40 minutes of this. But I did, so I guess that's some credit to it. I also had a problem with your... I feel like the movie really sets you up that you're supposed to really care about this kind of silent film star who's his star is fading and stuff like that. But from the first time you see him, he's kind of just a jerk. Like, in these small little ways that, like, if you're not truly paying attention, I'm not sure if you'll pick up. He's in this dysfunctional marriage, which, I mean, a marriage is definitely a two-way street, but it shows in several scenes that he cares more about his dog than he does his wife. Like, he pampers his dog and stuff like that, and then he won't even talk to his wife. And he's a jerk to his coworkers. He's incredibly egotistical and full of himself. And then when life starts to fall apart, you're supposed to feel sorry for him. And it's like, I didn't. Like, I just was like, yeah, you're kind of a jerk, and you think you're the best in the world, and hey, you're kind of getting some comeuppance here. And yeah, I don't know. There's really not too many good things I can say about this movie. Acting is great. All stories, I guess, kind of engaging. It just was lost on me. I'll freely admit it that this is a movie that is just completely lost on me. Like, I don't get any benefit from this movie. So if you were gonna ask me, hey Todd, should I see this movie? That's a tough question that you're gonna have to soul search about. I think if you want to watch a silent film kind of film, then maybe. But I just really didn't get much, if any, enjoyment out of it. Even though I can at least acknowledge that I think it was good for what it tried to do, it just is way over my head. I'm not angry that I watched it, like some of the movies that we have seen recently, but I also am like, eh. Like, I remember when this came out and people talked so much good about it. They were like, oh, so incredible, and blah, blah, blah. And it made me go, oh, man, I should watch it. And then it just fell through the cracks. So when it popped up on our list, I was like, oh, yeah. Like, I remember that movie kind of coming out. And then when I thought about it more, I was like, wait, isn't that like I thought it was just like a silent movie. It's just like a no-talking movie. But still, I was like, once I realized it was that movie, I was like, ooh, I don't know. And then my feelings kind of came true when I watched it and was like, oh, this is just not for me. A miss for me. But that's the beauty of opinions. You get to give your opinion, and you get to stand by it, and, whatever. You don't like my opinion? Start your own podcast. That's my go-to. That's my go-to line for anyone who disagrees or hates what I'm saying. So,
Great.
Matt, what did you think?
Well, Well, first I'll say I was successful in figuring out what the Best Picture nominees it was up against.
Oh,
So if
okay.
you're interested,
Oh, I
the
am.
list is The Descendants,
Okay.
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, The Help,
Oh,
Hugo,
okay.
Midnight in Paris, Moneyball, The Tree of Life, and War Horse.
Oh, not a good year.
Yeah,
I mean, Moneyball's okay, I guess, but would I put it in a category of Best Picture? I don't know.
yeah. I guess you gotta take whatever came out.
I mean, yeah, I
So
guess maybe those were the best pictures that year. And 2011 was just not a banger.
right. Well, anyway, this movie, The Artist, um, I pretty much hate it. So we're of like mind on this one, Todd. I I yeah. I don't know. I think about like the difficulty of silent film or a movie with subtitles, and I think about a movie like Parasite, which I love, and I I almost at times forgot that it was subtitled, that I was reading every word because
Sure.
the story pulled me in. Whereas this movie, uh, I thought the story was just terrible, and so the black and white film and the silent nature of the film and the old style, it all just really detracted uh, because I didn't like the story at all.
Yeah.
So I'll agree with you. There are some good acting performances. John Goodman's in this. He does a great job, and um, but the the you touched on this too. The main character is not likable.
Yeah.
There's no he he never really redeems himself, and you just don't care what happens to him. In fact, you almost wish that he'd get what's coming to him, and uh, are not that upset when bad things happen.
Yeah.
That's how I felt anyway. So, uh, aside from sort of being an unlikable main character, I also felt like there were these sort of half-developed side stories that never really went anywhere. Like,
Yes.
okay, he's in a bad marriage with his wife. Well, you have a silent film. You've got a husband and wife who aren't talking to each other, and
Yes.
so your way of showing that they aren't talking to each other is have them sitting in the same spots and changing clothes. Like the clothes are different, so you know it's a different day that they still aren't talking, and time's passing.
Yeah.
It's like gross. Anyway, the other part of the movie is there's this the female lead who is like a younger actress who he kind of gives a break to, and then later she returns later. But excuse me, um, she has this whole other career thing going on, and that is not really fleshed out other than she's successful.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They could have done a lot more with this movie. Um, Namely, they could have done the whole thing and not had it be a silent movie.
Right. Yeah, I 100% agree. Like, I feel like they, I feel like stuff that I heard when people talk about this movie is like, oh, how hard it was to act when you couldn't, like, deliver lines and you had to be, like, you had to do over the top emotions, you had to do over the top gestures and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, what's hard too is delivering lines and doing
Right.
that aspect of acting, which, you know, until the recorder was invented, wasn't a part of acting. Like, so, I'm like, I'd rather take what is now than what was. That's kind of just the way technology works. Like, especially when it's technology for the better. It's like, why? I mean, maybe there are people out there who fantasize and are like, oh, I miss those movies, or has a monster collection of those movies and is just in love. And sure, this movie is your champion, but it's not mine. And this guy in the
Well,
film is not my champion at all.
and I feel like it goes back to sort of like if you're a film, like a historical, you're interested in the history of film, you might like this movie for that reason.
Sure.
I compare it to how I feel about video games. Like, I'm a gamer, I play a lot of games. Um, but people are like, oh, you should play this classic from like the 80s or the 90s or whatever. And I'm like, that really looks bad compared to today's standards. I don't really want to play that game. That's like that's like old school, old stuff. And
Yeah.
I don't care about it. That's kind of how I felt about this. Like, why are we making a movie in the old way when we can have a new movie? But yeah, some
That
people like
is
it.
a brilliant analogy, Matt. I
Thanks.
agree with that. And I will say that the only person in this movie, or the only thing in this movie that I looked forward to seeing to, that I was like, I can't wait for that thing to be back on the screen, was the dog.
Oh
And
yeah, very
only
talented
because,
dog actor.
yeah, a very talented dog actor. But it was because it just reminded me of the dog from Frasier, which is a show that I like. So anytime the dog wasn't around, I was like, let's get more of that dog in here. Just you could have an hour and a half film of him doing tricks, and I'd kind of be happy if you're not gonna let me hear people and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that would have been better than.
Yeah. So, Matt, how many? Um, let's do. How many pairs of tap dancing shoes would you give this
Hmm,
movie?
that's complicated. So we're going with pairs, so it could be 0 to 5, which would be 0 to 10 actual tap dancing shoes.
Yes, but we're
Crazy.
only counting
Pairs.
pairs. Unless you give an
Okay.
answer like 2.5 or something, then that's two pairs in a shoe.
Right. 3 shoes. All right. Well, I'm gonna keep it pretty simple, and I'm gonna say this movie was 1.5 pairs of tap dancing.
Mm.
So that's 3 shoes.
Well, I don't think it's the first time ever, but it doesn't happen a whole lot that I am on the exact same number. That's where I was going to
Aha.
land. So, uh, yeah, if you were to ask us, I guess we don't truly recommend this movie unless you're a film historian and you want to dive down that road. To which, even if you were a good friend of mine, I feel like I try to convince you not to do it. Is how I feel about this
Yeah.
film. But you know, you got to live your life and you got to do you. So,
True story.
yeah.
Well, there it is. We didn't like this very much. Um,
It's been a while since
there were
we've
some,
both hated a movie.
yeah, there were some small redeeming qualities, but only enough to bump it over the one tap dancing shoe pair
Mm-hmm.
margin. So, well, that's gonna wrap it up for this episode of Matt and Todd Go to the Movies, where we reviewed The Artist from 2011. Somehow won Best Picture that year. Um,
Somehow.
and we did not agree with. Well, we haven't watched all of them, so we can't give true recommendation compared with the other films here. We can say that we both pretty much hated this movie, and um, we gave it a 1.5 both of us. That's
Mm.
that.
Mm-hmm. And
Thank
there you
you
have it.
for listening to our little podcast here. Please continue to listen. We'll see you in the next episode.
Da 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 da.
Da da da
Da da da.
da da da.